Namaste, yogis. I'm thrilled to be here with you and offer what I hope to be a nice soothing and releasing practice. This is based on the work that I do in Yin style yoga. Some of you may be familiar with it for having attended my Power Down classes. It's a little different environment, obviously, when we're not in the heated studio, but know that this style of yoga is actually recommended to be done when the muscles are cool, because the whole idea of this, the longer held poses that we'll be doing today, is to allow the major muscles in the body to release and get into more in the ligaments and tendons in the body instead. So come to a comfortable seat. I realize that many of you may not have props at home. If you have a blanket, that would be a great thing to have for today's practice. If you have a block, I'm not going to be demonstrating with a block. You can also use a couple of reams of paper stacked on top of each other, or a couple of thick books. I'd say a phone book, but that really dates myself if I use that term, because no one has phone books anymore. So anyway, just settle into your seat, please. Again, you can have your hips on the edge of the seat, on the edge of your blanket, so that your hips are sitting a little higher than your knees. And just begin to come into your breath, softening your gaze, turning your eyes downward, or maybe closing your eyes, and bringing your focus more inward. It's so important in this time right now of uncertainty and fear that we really live deeper in our inner worlds rather than our outer worlds, trusting the intuition that's within us, trusting our breath to carry us through challenging emotions, trusting our heart to lead with compassion and to push aside or move through the fear that stays in our way. So taking a nice deep breath in through your nose, and exhaling, imagining all of the fear and tension just dissipating like droplets from your body. And inhaling again, pulling in all the love that you can from the earth and down from the heavens. And releasing out any expectations about the future. One more deep breath in, carrying in all the loves of all of the awakening souls that are in your life, all of the awakening souls who are watching this video with you, all of us together, pulling in all of that energy, and exhaling out, relaxing in, softening around the edges. Nice. And gently bring your palms together at your heart, letting the thumb knuckles touch into your heart. And drop your gaze down, bringing to mind an intention, something you need right now, something you need to cultivate within yourself that's brought you here to your practice. It can also be an intention for healing, not only for yourself, but for your loved ones, for your community, for the world, as we navigate these uncharted territories with such grace and ease that it allows the virus to no longer be needed and to gently fall away without the impact that is being predicted. Taking one more deep breath in and slowly exhale it out. Gently opening your eyes, bring your hands down onto your knees, and then we'll bring ourselves into a tabletop position. You can have the blanket underneath your knees if your knees are sensitive, if you're on a hard surface, but otherwise dropping the hands down to the mat. The knees are underneath the hips, the wrists are underneath the shoulders. I'm going to gaze forward and then drop the belly down, bring your gaze up, arching the spine, and exhaling, rounding back, turning your gaze towards your belly button. Inhale forward, just gently loosening up the spine, and exhale, rounding back. Now this next time, you'll drop the belly down, bring the gaze forward. Walk your hands a little bit more forward and tuck your toes under if they're not already tucked under. Push the hips back and lift yourself up into downward dog. Gaze back towards your belly button. It doesn't have to be your longest down dog. You can walk the feet in a little bit and pedal them out, finding opening in the back of the legs. Bring yourself forward to plank pose. Drop the knees down and sit back on your heels in a child's pose. Inhale, undulating the spine forward. The arms are still a little bit in front of the shoulders. Drop the belly down and the gaze comes up. Toes tuck under and push the hips up and back to downward dog. Come forward to plank pose. This time, listen for the change. You'll drop the knees down. Untuck your toes and lift yourself up to kneeling, reaching the arms up over your head. Bend your elbows, reaching the heart high, finding a back bend. Inhale the arms up and exhale, hands back down to the mat. Sitting back in a child's pose, walk the hands forward. So we'll do that one more time. Lifting up onto your hands and knees. Again, the wrists are a little bit in front of the shoulders. Drop the belly down, the gaze comes up. Tuck the toes under, push the hips back, downward dog. Rise onto the balls of your feet, rolling forward, dropping the knees down, lifting the arms all the way up. Bend your elbows, taking a back bend. Arms reach high, and hands back down, child's pose. Wiggling the hips a little bit from side to side. Maybe drop the elbows down and perhaps the forehead down to your mat as well. Settling in for just a moment to the energy that we moved around through that little bit of flow we just took. And now we'll be setting up for the first longer held pose. I will be keeping track of the time. So what you'll do is lift yourself up back into your tabletop position, but walk yourself more towards the front of your mat, please. So your hands are almost at the very top of your mat. You'll straighten the left leg back behind you. Keep the ball of the foot down on the mat, stretching a little bit through the calf. Lift your right knee up, take it right to the center of your body, and swing the right foot over to the left. Drop the right knee behind the left, and flip the right foot over to the left. Am I backwards? Yes, the left foot over to the right. Anyway, so the right knee is on top, the left knee is behind you. And then you'll sit back on either onto your blanket or all the way down to your mat. What you want to avoid is sitting on your heels. Now some of you may, when you come back, find that your hips will not lower down. You can either prop yourself onto a blanket or straighten the left leg out. You can also bring the outside, the foot down so the knee is pointing up towards the ceiling. So the full version, again, I hesitate to call it a full version because whatever version you're in is exactly the one that you need today. So ideally, if it's possible for you to not sit on your heels and have the legs out to the sides, what you'll do is fold yourself forward. Maybe your hands come down to the mat. Maybe your chin comes down to your knee. Maybe your forehead comes to the knee. You're going to be feeling this especially in the outer hips, the right outer hip in particular. So I will set the timer and hold us in this pose. So the principles of Yin Yoga is once you come into the pose, first of all, coming into the pose with great awareness and great compassion for yourself and what your body is asking for today. So never forcing anything, never going too much beyond your edge. So that's the first principle. And then the second principle is once you find your level of the pose, come into stillness. Do the best that you can to not wiggle around, to not readjust, and to allow the pose to settle within your body. Keep the breath moving, maybe even imagining the breath swirling around the outer hips. It does get more intense the longer we are holding the pose. I'm not going to hold us for a super long time. We're going to be holding this one for 1 more minute. So maybe trying to find 5 to 10% more relaxation by feeling the breath coming into the back of your body, rounding the spine, releasing the jaw, tuning in to what's happening in the ligaments and tendons around your hips. Finding the ease and the reset of your, not only your muscles and ligaments and tendons, but by lengthening the breath, finding a different reset in your neurotransmitters, in the way that your nerves are reacting. Things could be really stirred up for you, and sometimes when we move into the hips, it stirs things up even more. So being very aware of that. Great job. Now lifting your chest back up. Listen, what we're going to do next is you're going to lean over slightly to the left. Swing the right leg all the way back behind you. Again, if you're not, as I ended up landing kind of towards the back part of my mat, you may want to scoot yourself a little more forward. We're coming into half pigeon pose. So the left knee is as far over to the left of your mat as possible. Some of you will choose to leave the inside of the right knee and the inside of the right foot down on the mat, modifying this as you fold forward over the front shin. Others of you will turn the right knee down, lift yourself up so that actually the left hip kind of lifts up slightly, scooting the right knee back by tucking the toes under, and then folding forward. You can bring your hands down onto your forehead. You can be up on your forearms. You can even be up on your hands here. So we'll be holding this one for a little bit longer. So finding a pose that you can sustain for a longer period of time is really critical. Another option is you can bring a blanket, just rolling it up, maybe doubling it over and placing it underneath your left hip if it's really reaching high off of the mat. If you have knee issues and this one does not work for you, please come down onto your back, cross the right ankle over the left, lift the left foot off to the mat and swing your hands in between the legs, grabbing behind the thigh, and drop your head and shoulders down. Figure 4 pose. So we're already almost a minute into the pose. So see if you can settle in a little deeper. Again, it's the left leg that's forward, the right leg is behind you. Either the knee facing all the way down or the knee bent even with your hip and the inside of the ankle down as you fold over the left shin. Breathing deep. With each breath, it's almost like an ice cube melting away any tension that's built up in your body. Staying with it. If, again, you start to feel any pain, I recommend that you come out of the pose, perhaps coming onto your back in a figure 4. But knowing also that deep sensation occurs in these longer held poses, and it's a natural part of the process. So asking yourself before you come out of the pose why you want to come out of the pose. It sometimes can be 2/3 of the way through the pose when you really start to feel the release. And I wouldn't want you to miss out on that from coming out of the pose too early. Remembering as well to relax your jaw, because often any tension that we feel in our hips gets placed back into our jaw. Breathing in and breathing out. See where we are on time. Oh yeah, you have only about 40 seconds left. You're doing really well. Finding a bit more release for these final moments. Stepping into your stillness, into the inner landscape. Now lift your chest back up, coming back onto your hands, and roll the weight onto the left leg. We're going to come straight into what's called fire logs or square pose. So you'll swing the right leg all the way back around. I'm going to turn this way so that you can see me. And you'll stack the right ankle on top of the left knee. Now, many people will have the knee way up here when you start. If it's really painful or not accessible for you to do it in this way, drop the right foot in front of the left. So it's kind of like you're sitting cross-legged, but the ankles are underneath the knees. So if your leg is lifted up on top of the left knee, try to flex the right foot, and again fold forward. This is heavy work moving into the hips, and I know that this is not a comfortable position, but this is the point where you really trust your practice, you trust your body, and you trust that you're releasing perhaps old traumas that are held within you that are holding you back, that you're not even aware of. It's not uncommon that during these longer held poses, you start to feel a little agitated. And so go with that, nurture yourself, and remind yourself, saying to yourself silently, I'm okay, I'm safe, this is all happening exactly how it needs to happen. Allowing the belly to relax and the breath to deepen. You're really doing great. Again, this is not an easy sequence, but you will notice that either later today or tomorrow, you will feel a deep relief and release in your hips, allowing you to sit more comfortably, perhaps even noticing the emotional or a spiritual release as we're clearing the pathway. Yin yoga is based on, the poses are based on the meridians in the body, just like in acupressure or acupuncture. So as we are sitting in these poses, it's clearing out the lines of energy in the body that keep stagnant energy in place. So it's working on many different levels. I know that many of you really enjoy the longer and really challenging practices that are offered at Hot Elevation Studios. And I offer this as an alternative, as a way of grounding yourself into your body, into the energy of the earth, and into your sense of safety. The hips, the chakra system, the root chakra, is our sense of security and safety. So this sequence is really designed to remind you that you are held and that you are safe. Let's see, we've got about 20 more seconds left in this pose. Breathing through it. Just a few more breaths. You've got this. If you've leaned forward, you can start to bring your chest back up, walking your fingertips behind you. Uncross the legs, taking the legs as wide as your mat. Leaning back and bending your elbows and allowing the legs to windshield wiper from side to side. Loosening and recalibrating the hips. You're probably going to feel a little sore, almost feeling like you're a little broken. It's very natural as we move through these different systems in our body. Okay, getting ready for the second side. You'll swing the legs to one side, and again, bring yourself towards the top of your mat, please. See if I can get my left and right correct this time. So you'll straighten the right leg back behind you, pushing through the heel for a moment to stretch into the calf. And then look down and lift up your left knee, bring it right to the center of your body, a little bit above your belly button. Swing the left foot over to the right so that you're on the top where your shoelaces would be, and drop the right knee behind the left. Swing the right foot over to the left, and either sitting back on your blanket, again, walk the knees fairly forward so that when you sit back, you're landing on your blanket, or all the way down to the mat. Be aware of not sitting on your heel, especially your right heel outside of your left hip. If, again, this is too much, you can straighten the right leg, either keeping the outer left foot on the mat or bringing the sole of the foot down. So from wherever you are, and it could be different on one side than it is for you on the other, begin to fold forward, either chin towards your knee or forehead towards your knee, maybe forearms down to the mat, maybe up on your hands, and perhaps all the way lifted. Finding a place where you are at just the beginning of your edge. My teacher often says to me that when doing this style, this yin style of yoga, it's not about being an A student. It's allowing yourself to soften a little bit, to surrender into it, maybe performing like you would as if you were a C or a D student and not striving to be an A student. So rounding the back, feeling the opening happening between the shoulder blades, puffing up the back of the lungs, and opening up the space in the back of your heart. The back of your heart is the place where that little light inside of you that is you, your true essence, resides. So the more nourishing and the more energy we can send to that area, the more that little flame inside of you can grow stronger and help you through when you're feeling perhaps a little wobbly in all of the uncertainty that's happening right now. So using your breath and your body to help self-soothe in order to be able to be available for yourself and others in a way that's needed with compassion and lightness. So settling in a little deeper, imagining, as I mentioned earlier, like you're an ice cube melting deeper into the pose. Being so grateful that even though we're not in person, we have ways to connect and continue our practice. And the beauty of having a yoga practice to keep you in the present moment. That's really the critical thing right now, is tapping into what is real for you, not allowing the fears of the past or stories or limiting beliefs that you have to rule you. This is a time when you need to own your own energy, your own sovereignty, and step in to the grace that you have within you. You're doing so well. I really hope that you're finding nourishment through this practice. Just about 10 more seconds on this side. One more deep breath in and see if you can melt a little away on the exhale. Good, good. And begin to lift yourself back up. Unwind. This time you're going to swing the left leg behind you. Again, you may want to bring yourself a little more further towards the top of your mat. Coming into half pigeon or modified half pigeon. I'm going to flip around so that you can see it again on the same that I did on the other side. So it is the, now I'm all messed up, right leg that's swinging behind you. And you'll fold forward over the front leg. Either, the right leg is either coming onto the left knee, lifting up, moving the right knee over as far to the right as you can, and dropping the right knee down so that the foot and the knee are facing down, or rolling onto the right hip, bringing the left knee even with the hip and the inside of the ankle down, folding over. Sleeping swan or half pigeon. So in the yin tradition, many of the poses that you may be familiar with doing from other classes, from the vinyasa classes that you take, have different names. And the names are based on animals and emulating the characteristics of the animal. That's why it's called a sleeping swan. So just imagine, the long legs of a swan, and then you're folding forward over top of it. The pose we just did is called shoelace because one leg is draped on top of the other. So it's a very ancient practice based on Taoist principles and has been adapted for the Western culture here by bringing in somewhat different names and a little more grounded practice. Remembering to relax your jaw, relax your arms, your shoulders, making sure that the foot isn't splaying in or out, that it's resting gently on top of the mat. Or if you have the knee bent, the foot is flexed. You can be up on your forearms, you can be down with your head on top of your hands, or you can be lifted up onto your hands. You're doing well. 1 minute left on this second side. Swirling the breath around your hip. Finding more ease, more openness, and stepping into the sensation rather than being pulled away from it, rather than being afraid of it. Trusting yourself that you will not bring yourself any deeper than you need in this pose. 15 more seconds. Maybe 2 or 3 breaths. And begin to lift yourself up, roll the weight onto your right hip, and you'll swing the left leg all the way around. I'm going to turn to face this way to show you back into, first, before we go into fire log, lean back, bringing the soles of the feet about as wide as your mat, and allow the hips to sway from side to side. And deepen your breath. You can keep the arms straight or bend the elbows, bringing yourself down a little bit further. And now swinging the left ankle on top of the right knee. Again, you may find a lot of space in between the top knee and the knee and the ankle. If it's really uncomfortable for you, you'll bring the left foot right in front of the right knee. Hands by your sides. I'm going to set us up here. And folding forward. You can walk the hands in front of you. Again, if your left foot is on top of the right knee, try to have that ankle on the knee and the foot hanging over the edge of the knee, flexing your foot and folding forward, feeling the deep opening in the outside of the left hip. We're all in this together. And finding gratitude for this community, for your safety, for this practice, and supporting each other in the best way that we can by keeping our wonderful habits of yoga in place, broadening perhaps even what we're used to doing. Got one more minute. Breathing in and sinking deeper on the exhale. Maybe even an open mouth sigh, letting something go. Notice how that can relax you all the way down into your hips. One more time, a deep breath in. Let it go. You can always turn your head from side to side if it starts to get a little heavy or feeling tension in your neck. Even though these poses require stillness, the neck is not a part of the stillness because our heads get awfully heavy. So be sure to keep any movement moving, your head moving around, to keep any stiffness from settling into your neck. And walking the hands back, lifting your chest back up. Unwind the legs. And make your way all the way onto your back. Pull the knees outside of the ribs and roll a little bit from side to side. Maybe taking a happy baby pose before we settle into a Shavasana. Grabbing the outside of your feet, rolling a little bit from side to side, maybe grabbing behind the thighs if it's difficult for you to keep your back flat as you have the feet up towards the ceiling. And finally, taking the legs straight up towards the ceiling, tucking the hands right underneath the edges of your hips. Bend and flex your feet, rolling the ankles around, tapping the inside of the feet together. Reversing the flow of energy in your body, the flow of blood in your body. Now pull the knees back into your chest, forehead up towards the knees, rounding and curling into a little ball. Take a big sip of air in. And exhale, lower the arms and the legs down, turning the feet out, palms by your side, facing up, and the arms a little bit away from your sides. Shavasana. Just releasing completely into your mat. I've got you. We'll take a 3-minute Shavasana before closing out. I will be silent during the Shavasana. Stepping into your stillness. Begin to deepen your breath. Wiggling your fingers and your toes. Coming back into your body. Roll yourself onto your right side. Pulling the knees in slightly. And breathing into your heart. Bringing awareness to how different you feel now after this time on your mat. And how you're going to carry this peace and this inner tranquility with you throughout the rest of your day. And knowing that your breath is always here to guide you back to your inner landscape. Bring yourself to a seated position, please. Palms together at your heart. Gazing down towards your fingertips, take a nice deep breath in. And a slow breath out. One more time, a deep breath in. And exhale it out. May all beings be safe and free from harm. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be happy. And may all beings find freedom, know peace, and walk through the world with ease. It's been an honor to be with you here today. Namaste.